What it do? What it do? Welcome on in, man. And I know this is about to ruffle some feathers, man. Diddy got a standing ovation as he left the court and went back to his cell, man. They was in there applauding and cheering and giving him all the praise in the world, man. And people don't understand why. And TMZ is reporting this for those who probably think I'm just making this up, man. And if y'all trust in TMZ, y'all know they paid a big bag to get this information. So with that being said, man, we about to go ahead and get into this. But before we do, I hope you guys like this content. Hope you like it enough to where you hit that like, subscribe, and notification bell. And you run and tell a friend to join in. Now, with that being said, also, we are going to listen to the audio from TMZ and not actually watch the video due to copyright infringement. So with that being said, let's get to it, man.
Welcome to TMZ Live. Harvey Levin here.
Charles here.
So now that people have had time to process it, I got to say, such a spectacular loss on the part of prosecutors in the Diddy case. Getting convicted of the Mann Act, he is going to get out within a year. I mean, based on based on sentencing guidelines, prosecutors are asking for a little more than 4.
Right.
And he's already served nearly a year. He's not going to get 4. He's going to get less than that. He could easily get 2 under the sentencing guidelines, and he's already served 1. Plus, there's credit that he's going to get. Diddy will get out, but when he got back to prison, it was raucous.
On Wednesday night when he walked in.
Before we get into that, I want to know, what do y'all feel, right? How much time do y'all think Diddy gonna get? Drop down in the comment section. Let's talk about it. Me personally, I don't think that he's going to get that much time. Even if they do give him that much time, most of it is going to be served on probation. I would not be surprised if Diddy gets time served plus probation. Why? Because he is not considered a violent offender, meaning he was not found guilty for any other cases where it involved violence. Regardless of what he did to Cassie, they didn't do a domestic violence case. So under the court guidelines, they cannot use that. Under the court guidelines, they cannot use that because he wasn't prosecuted for it or found guilty of it. So by the court guidelines, he is not considered a violent offender. So also you have to take in consideration that this case and what they was able to find him guilty of was also not a violent offense. And normally when you ain't a violent offender and you don't got priors of violence and you been convicted of a non-violent offense, they don't really give you all that much time. They don't. But once again, he got money. This is a high profile case. You can take that into consideration. But more times than not, he probably getting probation and time served based on the guidelines, like he just said. But with that being said, let's get to the rest of it.
In after, like you said, certainly he views it as a victory. The other inmates gave him a standing ovation.
He beat the feds.
Because he beat the feds. His attorney, Mark Agnifilo, said that he got basically a hero's welcome because they don't, the way the other inmates see it, they don't, this is such a rarity that someone beats the government.
Very rare. I mean, the government has such, when you look at the resources in Diddy, to get 70 Homeland Security agents to raid 2 houses, to spend the time to put 6 prosecutors on this, and all that they did, it is hard to beat that. And he had the money to hire a legal team that kicked their ass. I mean, they just did.
That's why part of the reaction of the other inmates.
And for those out there who don't understand why people are saying that he won, it's pretty much simple, right? He was facing life in prison. Life in prison, right? Even though technically he did not win because he was found guilty on 2 charges, So technically you are right. He did not beat the feds. He did not win. The feds won technically because they got 2 convictions on him. So they have won, and they put him in the system. Now he is a career criminal. He has been convicted of criminal offenses. Now they have him in the system. So if he come up against them again, now they can add time and all this old other stuff that they like to do. But as of right now, he was facing life in prison. And now he might only have to serve another year in jail, or maybe not even that, and walk away by tomorrow or by July 8th, whenever you guys see this, walk out of the prison system with probation for the rest of his time. Why? Because it is a non-violent offense. And the prosecution is mainly asking for at least 4 years. They're begging the judge to give him at least 4 years. That's it. 4 years? And he already served a year in prison? They're not even really asking for the max. They're asking for 4 years. And they're begging and pleading for that 4 years. So that should let you know something right there. So if you don't consider that a win when you're basically facing life in prison, then I don't know how else to explain that to you. That is why you hear people saying that he beat the feds, because they put so much time, resource, and money into convicting him of the much serious crime, of the much more serious crimes, and they didn't. They convicted him of the lesser crimes. And in anybody book that's going to trial and that is facing that type of time, that is a win. Let's keep going.
It sort of surprised me because you could see it cutting the other way, that they would be resentful that a guy with lots of money and power was able to beat the feds while maybe some of the people in prison didn't have those resources. But it cut the other way. They just want to see the government beaten, and there's a real camaraderie in prison. And he apparently came in and was feted like a hero, a returning hero, after being told he had to go back and sit in the facility and not be released on bond, which I think was a bit of a stomach punch to Diddy. There's some of the sketches show he was quite upset with that ruling, but it must be nice to come home.
You know, I
did
some recon on this, and I was actually wrong on this because I thought he would get out, but they knew he wasn't, and they were prepared for it because they conceded domestic violence in open court. So they kind of knew that he was going to stay in until sentencing. Nonetheless, now
they knew he wasn't going to get out. Everybody and their mama knew they wasn't about to let him out on bond after seeing that Cassie video. Everybody and their mama should have known that. Like that, you know what I'm saying? They say common sense ain't all that common, but that should have been common sense for everybody. Anybody that thought he was about to get out on bail after the Cassie video and after this, they were delusional at best. They were delusional at best. He was not going to get out on bail, which is why they're speeding up the sentencing. Had he gotten out on bail, they wouldn't be so pressed on sentencing. They wouldn't be so pressed on sentencing. But since he didn't get out on bail, now they're trying to speed up the sentencing. So therefore, I think tomorrow is the date that they're going to do the sentencing. They're going to give him his sentence tomorrow. I will not be surprised if he doesn't either get time served in probation, or they make him serve about another 6 months in jail, and then 6 months at a halfway house, and then probation. But I don't see him doing more than 2 years for these crimes. They're going to run them concurrent, which is basically you serve both terms as one, which is 10 years. And I wouldn't be surprised if they strike a deal and say, you know what, we'll let you go home today if you take 9 or 10 years on probation. Like they give him the max, but they give him the max on probation. Then it'll come down to what is his probation terms. Because all they want to do is get you on probation. Once they get you on probation, now they have you. And they're going to look to violate you every single chance they get. Every little thing that you do, they are going to look to violate you. So the longer your probation, the better the odds is for them to get you back in that jail cell and doing your time. And that's how they pretty much look at it. Just if you don't know, that's how they address it. Let's keep going though.
There's been a shoe that's been put on another foot.
Right. The immediate aftermath of the trial for Diddy was getting that applause in prison. For Cassie, it was getting hit with a lawsuit that was filed by a man named Clayton Howard. He's one of the male escorts that had freak-offs with Cassie and Diddy. During the trial, he was referred to as Dave, but he says that not only did Diddy control him, but Cassie controlled him. So you have now Diddy and Cassie as co-defendants in this lawsuit that accuses her, Clayton claims that she got pregnant and had with his child and had an abortion without telling him. Also that he got an STI from her. And he said all along, you know, people during this trial, you had Cassie as the victim. She was victim one, but his experience, he says, is that she was very much in control. This is what he had to say about why he didn't file this lawsuit sooner.
One, I was in an economic position where I really needed the money. Two, Mr. Combs is incredibly powerful, and Ms. Ventura had no problem ending her use of that power. There's a side of her that people don't know, the side that manipulated Sean Combs' power, the side that embraced his power and his position to do things that she wanted. So I was always afraid if I stopped coming, then I would start to have problems, because she threatened me several times not to come and made me feel uncomfortable that I would come to see her just to avoid any problem with Sean Combs.
So, you know, what's interesting about
it never fails, man. As long as the money rolling in, it's okay. As long as I'm getting paid, it's okay. Now, when I'm not getting paid, I have an issue. I want to sue. Right? When I was getting that power and I was getting that feeling and I was able to be demanding and I was able to do this and everybody looked at me a certain way because who I was with and what he brought to the table and what I was able to do and use. At that time, it was exciting. It was fun. It was something that I cherished. Now that I no longer need it or want it, now it's something wrong with it. I was abused. I was mentally. That's how people are looking at it. When more and more is coming out about Cassie rolling this, people are looking at it like, was she really a victim? Now, don't get me wrong. She could have been a victim. Like, don't nobody ever always agree. It is people that are in marriages that feel like they are a victim or a slave to their spouse because they tend to have to do some things that they don't really want to do in order for the relationship to continue on and work. You know, they don't always want to be able to be sexual or physical or this. They be having downtime. But guess what? For their spouse, they're willing to do it. So now when they get a divorce, oh, all them times that you made me have sexual relations and for us to keep this going, that going, well, I'm going to sue you for it because you coerced me. You held our relationship like. And it goes both ways, though. I'm not just talking about for the female. It also goes that way for the male as well. Because we have to understand that it goes both ways. Manipulation can come from from both parties. So can physical abuse. Can come from both parties. So what y'all think about that, man? Drop down in that comment section and let me know. Do y'all really think that Cassie was as much as a victim as people paint her to be? Or was she just as much as a culprit? Let's keep going.
Think about this. We spoke to one of the alternate jurors over the weekend, and he was saying, look, that he felt, and it sounds like the rest of the jury did too, that it wasn't so much a victim, although a lot of people on the outside say it was, as somebody who was consenting and was getting something out of the relationship. He's kind of echoing that in a way.
Yeah, that is certainly what Clayton was saying, that what she got out of it was power. And he said that he actually did want to file this lawsuit. He didn't want to wait until the trial was over. He wanted to file it before. He claims his attorney basically was in cahoots with the prosecutors and didn't want to make Cassie look bad. And that's why he eventually, Clayton, filed this lawsuit himself. He didn't file it with an attorney. So
it's a little bit strange that his attorney would not want to sully Cassie's reputation if he ends up suing Cassie. What is interesting to me about this is we did see glimmers of another side of Cassie during the criminal trial. Remember, there was an audio recording of her threatening another one of these alleged sex workers, and that showed a different perspective on who she was during this 11-year relationship, sometimes consenting, maybe sometimes even embracing the power that Diddy had. So I'm not sure you can discard what Clayton is saying in this lawsuit out of hand, but I think both things can be true. She could have been a victim in some respects and a perpetrator in others, potentially.
This is Mackenzie from Bucks County. I think as an
And that's what I'm saying, right? I'm not saying that she was never a victim within that relationship, right? But was she also complicit in some of those acts within that relationship? Are we going to hold her accountable for some of those acts that she was complicit in? Or are we going to say just the whole relationship she was a victim? Can you honestly just say the whole 11-year relationship that she was just a total, complete victim? And she wasn't complicit or didn't adhere or didn't do the things that they are claiming that she done? Like absorb his power and use his power against others. You heard the phone call, you saw the text messages. Like, was she a victim for the whole 12 years? Let me know what y'all feel, man. Drop down in that comment section. Let's talk about it.
As an attorney, this case with Mr. Howard is not going to get far with Cassie as a co-defendant, in my opinion. This escort claiming that Cassie has a different side to her, that embraced the freak-offs and was trying to manipulate Diddy and Mr. Howard after we all just saw her testimony that she was also being used and manipulated and heavily into drugs at this point in her life, makes the accusation very misguided. Bottom line is that she is not the person who started the freak-off, so I would be willing to bet that he's not going to be awarded any monetary damages from her in this suit if it even moves forward at all.
I will say, the way you're putting it is what a lot of people said before we heard the jury speak. The jury is not embracing what you just said. They didn't embrace what you just said, that she was a victim.
At a civil trial, it's going to be up to the jury, or I'm sorry, it's going to be up to the judge to look at all the facts of the case. And the facts of the case are simply that Cassie was not the initiator of all of this.
Yeah, not the initiator, but you know what the.
But I think Clayton may suffer the same thing that Cassie did, in that if this actually goes to trial, that they're going to say, look, you were along with this. You were getting paid.
Exactly.
You were getting paid very well. So
you weren't being manipulated or forced into doing anything.
Right. So he may suffer the same fate that Cassie did.
I think he will.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to move on.
All right, man. So what y'all think about that, man? What do y'all think about the lawsuit? What do y'all think about Diddy possibly being able to walk out of jail tomorrow or July 8th when he goes to court, whenever y'all see in this video? What do y'all think about that? Drop down in the comment section and let me know, right? And then also, we got some, let's go over here. We can watch this, though. Let's watch this together. Hold on, let me take that down. We can watch this one together.
I'm Eva Pilgrim. Thanks for streaming with us. Bail denied for Sean Combs. The judge saying the defendant's violence was starkly depicted in the now infamous 2016 video at the Intercontinental Hotel. The judge cited what he called Combs's propensity for violence, adding it is impossible for the defendant to demonstrate that he poses no danger to the community. This coming hours after the verdict. The jury finding Combs not guilty on the most serious charges he faced, racketeering, conspiracy, and 2 counts of sex trafficking. But they did find him guilty on 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. After the verdict was read, Combs turned to his family and said, "I'm coming home." He then kneeled on the ground, appearing to pray. Combs' son, Christian, celebrating the decision.
Everybody watching, so happy. Pop's coming home.
Tonight, Combs is still in custody. Let's bring in ABC News legal contributors Brian Buckmeyer and Bernardo Villalona. Brian, let's start with you here. A lot of people thought that Combs might walk out of that courthouse today. What happened?
So ultimately, as you said in the lead up, the judge said that there's a propensity to violence, that based on the video of the Intercontinental Hotel, as well as the evidence in the case, even though he was not convicted of the violence that was associated with the sex trafficking, the violence that was associated with the racketeering conspiracy, it can still be used against him for the purposes of bail. Bail was denied. We're going to see a sentencing come later. But I suspect, and Bernardo, tell me if I'm wrong, I suspect there's going to be a writ. And I think that the defense, probably next week, will go right to the Second Circuit and try again to try to get him released.
Were you surprised that he didn't walk out today?
I wasn't surprised at all, because you have to think that this judge is in a unique circumstance in the sense that he has heard all the evidence in this case for the last 7 weeks. And he's also heard evidence that wasn't introduced before this jury. So he's in a unique circumstance to know what is his propensity for violence. And also, when you're talking about what happened in this case, remember that a lot of the violence happened behind closed doors. Who's going to police that? Who's going to report that? So there's nothing that he can put in place, a condition to protect the community from Sean Combs.
Okay, Bernard, break down the verdict for us that we found out today.
Yes, so as we all know, racketeering conspiracy, he was found not guilty. But in terms of the racketeering conspiracy, you needed to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that there was an enterprise and there was an agreement within this enterprise to engage in 2 of the predicate acts. You would think, hey, you found Sean Combs guilty of 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution, and all you needed to prove was 2 predicate acts. But guess what? Despite proving the 2 predicate acts, you didn't prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Combs' enterprise was actually an enterprise that was built with an agreement to engage in these predicate acts. So that arson, that kidnapping, that bribery, no enterprise. The sex trafficking, we knew that was going to be difficult as to Cassie and as to Jane, because that forced fraud or coercion, because there were numerous text messages and messages having to deal with these women wanting the freak off or wanting to engage in these hotel nights. And I think that did leave seeds of doubt for this jury to convict Sean Combs of those counts. So basically, that's what we have. Transportation to engage in prostitution. Very clear that from the 27 escorts that were mentioned during this trial, that they were paid for commercial sex acts and that they were transported across state lines to engage in them.
Ryan, I know you said you were surprised. A lot of people were surprised about this verdict. Why?
I was surprised specifically as to the Cassie of it all, right? I thought if there was going to be sex trafficking because of the violence, I thought it might be difficult for a jury to really walk that tightrope of saying, this is a relationship that involved a lot of violence, but the violence wasn't used to traffic her. It was just violent for violence sake. And I could see either side going with either decision in that. But to piggyback on what Bernardo is saying is, I think the difficulty was the criminal conspiracy. I don't think that there was one because, again, as Bernardo said, if you have 2 transportation to engage in prostitution, those are your predicate acts. So the only reason why there is no RICO, it has to be that they did not find there's a criminal enterprise. Now, is that because KK, Christina Coram, didn't testify, because D-Rock didn't testify, because the loyal lieutenants, as the government put them as, didn't take the stand? Maybe. And maybe hindsight's 20/20, and they would think to themselves, maybe we should have put those people on and that would have carried the day. But we have at least 2 predicates, so there's only one reason why there's no RICO.
It's a reason why they didn't put those people on. Because they knew what those people was going to do. And they knew that those people was not going to help their case. So it's best to not put them on and then use them as a pawn and say, well, they're not on here because of this, opposed to them getting on there and hurting their case with their testimony. They are not about to put witnesses up there that they feel are going to hurt their case. They have to have a very strong belief that if they put a witness up there, that that witness is going to help their case, not hurt their case. That is why they did not put them up there or put them on. But they can also use that like, oh, yeah, they didn't want to come on here. They had ties to him and they was afraid because the jury don't know what's going on behind the scenes. So they can use that to their advantage. That's how they operate. That's how they maneuver. So I want to know, do y'all feel like, did they get it right? Did the jury get it right? Or are y'all blinded by the video of him abusing Cassie in the hotel lobby? And that is what gives y'all whole thought and train of thought to this case. Or do y'all just feel like the prosecution didn't present a proper case and didn't present enough? Because it's hard to prove an enterprise when it's only one person being charged for said enterprise. When you think of an enterprise and you think of a collusion of people, that means that it's more than one. It's multiple people. It's multiple people. And you're only charging one, but you want to charge for a RICO? That is where they messed up at. They were so willing to give everybody else immunity for their testimony against him that they didn't have nobody else to charge. Because they put out in the media as if these freak-offs were with other participants other than the females in which he was in relationships with. So everybody was in the public believing that these freak-off parties was with a multitude of people and celebrities and everything. But it all comes out and turns out that the freak-offs was only with the girls he was romantically involved with and paying their bills and no one else. And that is where they messed up at. That is where they messed up at, right there. So he's been incarcerated for almost a year now. For almost a year now, going on a year, he's been incarcerated. So I say that he might get time served and probation for the rest of his sentencing. Or they may make him do another year, 6 years in jail, 6 years at halfway house. I said 6 years. 6 months in jail, 6 months at a halfway house, and then probation. He's going to get probation because they're going to try to get him back in the system and back into the prison, into prison. That's what they are going to try to do for sure. But I will not be surprised if come tomorrow at sentencing that they do not give him time served or only make him serve another 6 months to a year and let him go. So we're going to see tomorrow, 2 p.m. Eastern time, he go to court. So we should know something by at least 2:30 or 3 p.m. Eastern time, which is 11 or 12 on the West Coast. So we should know something by then. So with that being said, man, I appreciate everybody who came through and dropped through and supported this live stream. If you can, hit that like, subscribe, and notification bell, man. And make sure you please hit that like button. Hey, it's a free way to support. It don't hit back, and it helps out the channel, helps out the algorithm, and all those good old things that we needed to do. So I appreciate y'all, and I hope y'all run and tell a friend to join in. I'm going to catch y'all on the next one. I'm up out of here. Peace, and stay blessed.